Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord and we're taking another crack at the Napoleonic Warfare mod, and today's video is going to be covering the Ottoman uniforms. So this is quite possibly the least well fleshed out faction in the game, or at least in the mod I should say. They are the soft replacement for the Azari faction, which makes sense. The uniforms themselves, not that great. Some of the items look alright. I like some of the uniforms, that's why I'm showing them here. But they do utilize some vanilla assets, which I'm not nuts about. I usually like it when conversion mods either A, replace all the vanilla assets, or B, take them out and just have the non-vanilla ones. I hate it when vanilla assets pop up in conversion mods. I understand that this one is a work in progress, so it's very early on in the development train, so I'm not being that aggressive against it. But keep in mind that unlike the rest of the uniforms that I've covered and will cover yet, the Ottoman faction actually utilizes several pieces of vanilla clothing, and, I'm not nuts about that. But let's just dive on in and start it off with the first one. So our first one is the Ottoman Tribal Infantry, and this one is one that I actually like a decent amount. I think it looks pretty dang good, and despite using a vanilla asset, I think it meshes it together well, and so I do enjoy this one, which is interesting given how basic it is. Most of the Ottoman ones, unlike most of the uniforms we looked at, are not going to have gloves. The reason why I left it like this, because A, all of the Ottoman uniforms you see in the game on their various troop types and everything, they're pretty much not wearing gloves at all, which makes sense because they're a desert unit, and gloves are sort of a pointless accessory in most dry, arid climates. So that being said, this uniform is made up of the tribal turban, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman greatcoat brown. There is nothing for the gloves. You could of course put something if you want, but I think it looks better and makes more sense thematically without them. And the Ottoman trousers, and we're using the white variant. So overall, like I said, think it looks pretty dang good. It's a believable uniform for the faction and period and everything, and looks decent style-wise. So that's the first Ottoman uniform. Next up, we're looking at one that is pretty similar to the last one. This is the Ottoman Auxiliary, so it's the most basic recruit level troop you can get from the Ottoman forces, and this uniform I think looks decent for it. So it's made up of the wrapped cap, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman greatcoat dark, no gloves once again, and the white Ottoman trousers. So again, very solid one. I think the wrapped cap is actually kind of a cool piece of headwear, and I think it looks really cool with this outfit, and there's enough of a contrast between the white accents and the dark green that I actually think it looks pretty dang good. So that is the Ottoman Auxiliary uniform. Next up, we have the Ottoman Bashibazook. This one is a infantry unit, and it's a little bit lighter, and it definitely looks pretty dang cool. So this one's made up of the turban, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman short coat blue, no gloves, and the white Ottoman trousers. So again, I think this one is fairly well balanced. It's got a lot of white going on, which makes sense for the Ottoman faction, all the pants, middle of the shirt or coat or whatever, and the bandolier, but then that contrasts well with the blue, and then we have the matching turban to shoes. So I actually like this one. Again, it's nothing crazy, and just as a whole, the Ottoman uniforms are my least favorite out of all of them in this mod, but it looks decent. So yeah, that's the Ottoman Bashibazook. Next up, we have the Ottoman Nasam infantry, and this one I think also looks decent. So it's made up of the headscarf with fez, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman infantry tunic, which is one of the better looking coat pieces out of all of the Ottoman items, no gloves, and the blue Ottoman trousers. So this time we have a blue on red contrast that I still think looks pretty dang good. I like how the red shoes match the red coat. The only thing is the headscarf with fez has this weird wraparound neck thing that makes it look like a hood that would probably look better on more of a flowing robe. So I'm not in love with that, but I do like the idea of a fez with this uniform. So maybe at some point they'll add a non-vanilla asset that'll be like a red fez or something, and that would look good with this. But overall, decent one, but that is the Ottoman Nasam infantry. Next up, we have the Ottoman Guard unit. So this is your top tier infantry unit in the Ottoman faction. As for the items that make it up, we have the Ottoman Janissary hat, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman infantry tunic, no gloves, and the Ottoman trousers. And now this is one of the few uniforms that I think the white gloves would probably look pretty decent on it. But, like I said, just thematic wise, it makes more sense not to have them. Overall, I like this one. It's all unique. None of this is vanilla assets. I think the Janissary hat looks a little goofy how it like floats around your head instead of wrapping onto it. So maybe I just designed my character to have too thin of a head or something, but that looks like a weird fit. But other than that, it's a pretty cool and very unique uniform. And as far as hats in the Ottoman faction go, the Janissary hats are the only unique ones added with the mod. So overall, I like it. I I think it looks really good compared to a lot of the other Ottoman stuff. So that is the Ottoman Guard uniform. Next up, we have the Ottoman Rifleman uniform, making it officially the worst rifleman uniform in the game. This one is the Ottoman Janissary hat, the Infantry bandolier, the Ottoman greatcoat green, no gloves, and the white Ottoman trousers. So, if you've been watching any of the other uniform videos I've done for this mod, you'll know that oftentimes the Rifleman uniform is one of, if not my absolute favorite uniform for the entire faction. Well, that is certainly not the case here. This one is not great. In fact, like I said, it's easily the worst Rifleman uniform in the entire game. So that is the Ottoman Rifleman uniform. Next up, we have the Ottoman Horsemen. This is a really basic unit, and it makes up the bulk of the Ottoman cavalry. Again, I think it looks decent though because of how basic it is, and so therefore it doesn't really clash out or look weird against the backdrop of the rest of the Ottoman army. It's made up of the turban, the cavalry bandolier, the Ottoman shortcoat green, no gloves, and the white Ottoman trousers. So again, a pretty standard looking uniform, really just mixing those three colors, the green, white, and red, and honestly looking pretty good doing it. So I definitely don't mind this one. I think it's a decent step up from the Ottoman Rifleman. I mean, it's not like they're directly comparable, this one being a cavalry unit, but still, I like it. So that is the Ottoman Horsemen. Next up, we have the Ottoman Nasam cavalry. So this one is a Nizam-inspired unit, much like the Ottoman Nizam infantry. This one is made up of the tribal turban, the cavalry bandolier, the Ottoman shortcoat blue, no gloves, and the blue Ottoman trousers. So you can see we're once again going for that solid blue with the red and white accents look, and I think it looks okay. I'm not in love with this one, but it's fine. Next up, we have the Ottoman Janissary officer, so this one being the officer in charge of Janissaries, or the officer of a Janissary legion, whatever you want to consider it. This one I actually think is decent. It's probably the fanciest looking Ottoman uniform you could make out of the pieces that are currently in the game. It's made up of the Ottoman Janissary officer hat, the cavalry bandolier, the Ottoman officer tunic, the officer's gloves white, and the Ottoman trousers. So like I said, this is about as fancy as you can get for the Ottoman faction, just because there are not that many items added with this mod for this faction, and the ones that do exist are not that impressive on the whole. So this one is probably about as fancy as you can get. But like I said, that is the Ottoman Janissary officer. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have the Ottoman infantry officer, which is quite possibly my favorite out of all of the Ottoman uniforms added with this mod. I actually quite like this one. I think the headgear is a little off, but it still looks pretty dang good and matches the theme very well. And the rest of the uniform is probably about as good as you can make Ottoman clothing look. So this is made up of the luxury turban over helmet, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman officer tunic, the officer's gloves white, and the white Ottoman trousers. So this one is the standard white and red mostly colors. You know, we've got a gold accent and some blue accents, and then the hat itself has kind of an orangish wrap around it. But overall, I really like this one. I could totally see this being some sort of a infantry officer in the Ottoman army, and I think it's actually pretty good looking. So that is the Ottoman infantry officer, probably my favorite one. Let's move on to the last Ottoman outfit or Ottoman uniform that we'll be looking at today. All right, finally, we're going to be doing the Ottoman Rifleman officer. So it's just a rifleman or an officer variant of the rifleman uniform. So again, on the whole, comparing it to most of the other rifleman uniforms in the game, not all that great. In fact, pretty disappointing, but compared to a lot of the other Ottoman uniforms, I think it looks decent. So this is the Ottoman Janissary officer hat, the infantry bandolier, the Ottoman shortcoat green, the officer's gloves black, and the Ottoman trousers, and that's the white variant. So I think this one would be better if the Ottomans had a black variant of equipment. So instead of using the infantry bandolier, we could use a black leather bandolier. I think that would look significantly better. But other than that, there's not a whole lot you can do to improve this uniform. So if you're going for a rifleman officer in the Ottoman faction, then this is how you're going to want to do it. But that is all for today. That is all 10 of the Ottoman uniforms that I was able to isolate. Like I said, not a lot of variety, and the parts that do exist are not all of that impressive. There are some variations of what I've shown, because there are like color variants of the big greatcoats or whatever that are used for several of the outfits, but other than that, you pretty much have seen it all here. So that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.